Hello everyone, Benderton here with another Hero Siege video. Today we are going to be covering Season 8 Lightning Pally Leveling Guide. Bear in mind, before we kick off this video, this is beta. So everything that you're going to see is currently susceptible to change. We're less than a week away from launch for Season 8. However, anything could be changed. So bear that in mind as you watch this video, but we're going to cover all of the basics of leveling for Lightning Pally, including gearing, skill trees, subtrees, relics, charms, etc. Just things to look out for while you're getting the leveling process done, getting to level 100 and getting yourself through the early stages of hell. So let's go ahead and get started. So real quick before we finish this, continue on with this video, I wanted to do kind of a preliminary discussion for newer players. This is specifically for the new players, whether you're new to Lightning Pally or Hero Siege in general. If you're a veteran, experienced player, especially if you've played Lightning Pally before, you can probably skip past this, move on to the gearing and skills section of the video. But for the newer players, I just wanted to give an explanation of kind of how this build functions and why it is that we do the things that we do in terms of gearing, so you'll understand the gear and skill section later just a little bit better, get a better understanding of the build. So Lightning Pally is a hybrid class, and what I mean by hybrid is our abilities do both physical and elemental damage. And so you'll see here on Lightning Fury, it shows the lightning damage, and it also shows attack damage and attack rating increase. And so we focus on the lightning side of it, but we don't want to discredit and completely ignore the physical damage that we're doing. The problem is that we only deal the physical damage when we actually get a melee strike. So if you are not within melee range to hit the enemy, you don't deal the physical damage, which is why we focus on the lightning. So as an example here, while you're leveling, you're going to use Vengeance, okay? And when you strike with it, forgive me. So normally you would swing and it doesn't hit. When you hit an enemy, it arcs lightning. Okay? Don't worry about those fires. That's some of my other gear on this character. And then utilizing some of the subtrees, you can change and modify the way that these skills work so that you can then hit from a distance. And that's really the big thing is, being able to hit enemies while you're still dodging mechanics. Okay? It's the same thing with Lightning Fury. The second ability that we use once we've hit level 40, we swap abilities. And it's the same thing with this. When you hit an enemy, it chains lightning through all of the targets. But utilizing the major node in the subtree, it actually summons an orb with every attack that arcs the lightning for us. So we just sit there and attack, proccing these orbs around us, which hit the enemies with chain lightning automatically. So understanding that we focus on the lightning, but you don't want to discredit the physical damage can really help boost your damage. Depending on where your gearing is at, you can see a good 30% damage increase from maintaining that in the frame melee damage. So try your best. Obviously, there are plenty of times where you're just going to have to be like, I can't get in there. I'm going to die if I get face to face with this thing. Totally fine. But whenever you can, try and work in a bit of in your face damage for that extra melee damage. It will help you. Now, knowing that this build is both physical and lightning, a lot of people will go, well, does that mean that we focus on the physical side and the magical side? No. And again, part of it is we just don't, there's not enough there to justify focusing on the physical side when we only are able to deal that physical damage when we are in the melee. We can get better damage out of focusing on the lightning slash magical side of it and not have to worry about being so close in the melee. So that's why it's just called a lightning build. We focus on the lightning damage because we get way more bang for our buck out of focusing that way compared to trying to either focus on the physical or split the damage. Um, and that's why throughout this guide, you're going to see in a lot of the gearing, we'll be focusing on plus skills, magic skill damage, either flat lightning skill damage or percent lightning skill damage. Um, and attack speed. Obviously, the more attacks we get, the more these orbs come out, the more lightning arcs and does extra damage. So that's really kind of the explanation of what this build is and why we build it the way that we do. Now, the other thing that we'll be doing, and I'll explain this again, as we progress further through, is we do attribute stacking for this particular build. And while this is on Season 7, obviously Season 8 open beta was very short. I tried to utilize that time as best as I could, uh, but this is on Season 7. Right now I have almost 800 minimum to all of my stats. Now in Season 8, we are getting star levels back. And the star levels at 5 stars gives an extra 40% increase to the attributes of a given item. And it's not just the stat attributes, it's all of it. It's the attack speed, the plus to skills, all of that. So for attribute stacking, we should easily be able to hit over 1,000 to all attributes and probably pushing 1,500 plus into intelligence, which is our main damage ability or attribute for our abilities. So we're going to see a significant damage increase for this build by focusing on attribute stacking. So I wanted to give that kind of explanation on the way that this build functions and why we focus on what we do, so that now, as a newer player, you can go into the gearing and the skill tree descriptions coming up and have a better understanding on why we're kind of going for the things that we are. So we're going to start out with our attributes and skills, and I'm going to cover from level 1 to 39, and then we're going to move on to level 40 to 100, because we're going to be swapping our main ability. While early leveling it's going to be Vengeance, and then later on it's going to swap over to Lightning Fury once we hit the capstone major node ability of Concentrated Fury. So while you're leveling, you're going to be focusing on Vengeance. This is going to be our primary damage dealer. This is what your tree will end up looking like. Of course, maxing out Vengeance. You don't need to put a point into any of these other ones. They don't do anything for us in the leveling process. Get a point into Holy Shock Aura, Ball Lightning, Eye of the Storm, Thor's Fury. I recommend putting the additional points while you're leveling into Thunder Shield. It is a synergy for Vengeance, so you're going to get damage, but it also gives us a little bit of damage reduction and lightning damage to enemies that hit us. Now, I do recommend putting a point into Divine Wisdom for the mana replenish. Light's Embrace, you don't really need to put a point into this. It's just a habit for me at this point. The cast speed does help with the Ball Lightning mobility, so that can be beneficial. But this is the big one, Holy Retribution. So it's a passive that gives us mana after kill, which really helps with our clear. It's going to help keep you going, so you're not going to have to rely on a mana potion as heavily. You can sacrifice some points from Thunder Shield over into Holy Retribution or Divine Wisdom to try and help curb your mana issues. Lightning tends to be fairly intensive on your mana pool, so it's not a bad idea to maybe spread a few points around that way. But this is the general makeup for it. Now, for stat attribute or attribute allocation, I recommend going 50-50 int and vitality. Int is our primary damage dealer or improver for our damage in our skills, and then vitality is just to keep us alive. You want to make sure that you're able to dole out damage, but that you don't get one shot by everything. So 50-50 split in the attributes is what I recommend. Now for our subtrees, really there's only two of them that you really need to focus on while you're leveling. Um, we can cover the Ball Lightning one, but realistically the only ones you're focusing on is Vengeance and Holy Shock Aura. So for Vengeance, what we want to do, I recommend doing in this order: 2 points into Uncontrolled Spike, getting additional lightning bolts that arc off of your Vengeance really helps us out, which causes us to hit multiple enemies while striking simultaneously. So I can actually hit all 6 of them because I have additional bolts that are arcing off of it. So get 2 points into that. It's going to help with our clear. Move up here. This is the really important ability with Vengeance. Vengeance has increased attack range and no longer requires hitting a target. So if I were to no longer have that put in, when I swing, it no longer arcs. I have to hit an enemy for it to arc the lightning to nearby enemies. So by putting those points in there, it now allows us to just trigger that without having to hit an enemy. So we can just run around enemies, arcing lightning and dealing damage without having to actually hit them. So first 2 points here into Uncontrolled Spike, next two into Overclock, and then I recommend a point here into Recharging Strike. This allows us to leech a percentage of Vengeance's damage as mana on hit. So as you can see, as I'm standing here, my mana pool isn't going down because I'm actually leeching enough mana to basically keep myself going. Okay, so I very much recommend a point into that. It's going to help, again, it's going to help keep you going. You're not going to burn through your mana as quickly or aggressively. And then the last 2 points, I recommend higher frequency. That additional attack speed is overall better than getting the 3 additional projectiles because the projectiles can't hit the same target. So this is good for clear, this is good for getting a little extra damage out. More swings, more damage out. For our Holy Shock Aura, while we're leveling, this is the recommendation that I would give. You can go up the left side if you want. Um, I just like the way that this functions, but you can, 2 points going up. This is the main thing that you're trying to get to, the Rupturing Lightning. This inflicts Lightning Break, and that improves all of our damage. So this is really the main thing that you want to get out of Holy Shock Aura. I've had a number of people question like, oh, why don't you go with Holy Aura? It increases your magic, attack damage and magic skill damage. The improvement that we get out of Holy Aura is nothing compared to the improvement that we get out of that lightning penetration or the lightning break. So way, way more worth than Holy Aura is, especially at lower levels when we don't have a lot of extra pluses to skills. So this is the recommendation that I would give for leveling up until you hit level 40. And that we're going to change over and it's going to look like this. So here is our skill tree for the level 40 to 100. And so basically what we've done is now shifted over to Lightning Fury as our target main ability for dealing damage. So as you can see, I still have the 50-50 split into Int and Vitality, but we've shifted over in this way. So of course we're going to get Lightning Fury maxed out and all of its synergies. So Vengeance, Divine Storm, Eye of the Storm are all maxed out. Put a point into Thunder Shield. It does give a little damage reduction and the lightning damage to enemies that hit you. Um, this is improved with plus to skills, so it's not a bad one to just have a point into. If you get a number of +1 to skills from your items as you're leveling, it's not a bad one to have. Again, we put our single point into Divine Wisdom, Light's Embrace, and Holy Retribution. Point into Ball Lightning. Again, that's required to access Eye of the Storm. Holy Shock Aura, and Thor's Fury. Now, let's get down to the subtrees. Okay, so the 3 I want to cover, of course, Lightning Fury, Holy Shock Aura, Ball Lightning. So for Lightning Fury, this is going to be the makeup. Now, when you first hit level 40, you can't take this pathing. Okay, what you're going to need to do is go straight up this way and get your first point in that way. Okay, because you're only going to have so many points. You can't, when you hit level 40, you're only going to have 8 points. Well, it requires 2 to go from one node to the next. If you go up the right side, you're going to be 1 short. So you're going to have to wait to 45 to actually go through and spec the way that I had it before. So at 40, just move up here to the left and get that first point. Then at 45, you can go through and get your single point that way. Now, as you continue getting points, what I recommend is do your 2 every way up, and then every subsequent point will start going into low resistance, which is going to increase your attack speed. You can put a point into the main node of Concentrated Fury at 40, 70, and 100. So always make sure that you're putting your point into your major node at those key levels. Okay. Once you got your low resistance capped out, then just start alternating points between Double Conduit and Electro Pulse. These are, one of them is an additional proc of Lightning Bolt that will deal additional damage. The other one causes the chain lightning hit to pulse, dealing area of effect damage. So these both increase our damage output and our clear. And let me just show you what this does here for the ability. So when you cast it, it's going to cause an orb to spiral around you, and that orb will arc lightning off of it that chains. And so as you see, those lightning bolts that keep popping down are the procs. And every now and then you'll see how there's that AoE explosion. So this is why we want those two abilities, because it's going to effectively trigger off of themselves, causing increased damage. And that's really where we're getting a lot of the early game damage out of it. Okay, so again, this will be your final tree at level 100. 2 points into Retribution is just a movement up the tree. 4 points here, 4 points here. 2 into Maximize Fury, max out your low resistance, and Concentrated Fury. Now, for Holy Shock, this is going to be your final tree. Okay? It's not as big of an issue to hit Lightning Tether. We're not so much using Holy Shock Aura for the damage. We're using it for these two nodes here. Rupturing Lightning, which is going to give us our Lightning Break, and Friendly Electron Flow. Now, this node is actually really powerful for us, because what it's going to do is you look at it and you go, oh, you gain a stacking damage, stacking buff increasing your lightning damage. It says 10%. You're like, well, 10% isn't a lot, except that this buff stacks 10 times at 10%. So this stacks 100% lightning damage for us. So you can actually see right there, Friendly Electron Flow is giving me 100% increased lightning damage. So it's actually a very significant buff, along with that uh, lightning break of 150%. So it's a significant damage buff. And again, like I said earlier, this is why we don't use Holy Aura. We get way better damage, significantly better damage out of Holy Shock Aura. So the reason, though, that we want to use Lightning Tether as our major node is this causes, as you can see, the enemies to tick damage, and every single tick can proc our Friendly Electron Flow and the Lightning Break. So it's the fastest way to get those to proc, and that's realistically what we're using it for. Yes, it does some damage, but realistically we're using it for the benefits, those two benefits. Now, the other one I want to cover here is Ball Lightning. So Ball Lightning is actually really beneficial because sometimes you can utilize it to jump over objects that you wouldn't normally jump over. Okay? Um, and as you can see, it's a decent little mobility. It gets better with some of the gear that we'd be looking to endgame, but the main reason that we want to utilize it every now and then is for some of the buffs that we get. So this will be the node setup that we have in the subtree, and the main ones that you want are these two nodes here. So increased defense and movement speed after you land. A 40% movement speed buff after utilizing this ability is very nice. It's going to help us with mobility, which early on we are very gimped on. It's one of the things that Lightning Pally has a problem with is mobility. So that's very beneficial. And we have a chance on landing to render us immune to all damage. I've actually been saved by this ability a number of times. I very much recommend it. It's really nice as you're just kind of jumping around, you know, and all of a sudden you jump in through a group of enemies, and of course it's not going to proc now that I'm doing it. um, but every now and then you'll be jumping around, and it will actually proc a bubble around you, and you'll see the buff for immunity. And so it can be very helpful. Like I said, I've been saved by it more than once, so I very much recommend that particular setup. Um, and then just the mobility, this one here for the when you're under 25% life, you get better movement speed, you know. But realistically, we also put the points into mana cost reduction because we're using it as a mild mobility skill, so we don't want it to break the bank on our already kind of lower end mana that we have. So that actually drops it down to 4 mana cast per cast. So it almost doesn't cost us anything Oh, see, there's the there was the immunity shield. Um, but yeah, we're just using that as a mobility option for us. And those are the three main nodes or subtrees that we're going to be dealing with going through the leveling process up to 100. So now we're going to cover our different gear choices while leveling. And I want to keep this to more recommendations, not necessarily target items, because during the leveling process, there's just no guarantee that you're going to get any given item. So I want you to get a decent understanding of why we're using certain pieces and what to really look for. And when you're looking for a weapon to go after, some of the key things that you want is going to be attack speed, all skills, magic skill damage, or lightning percent skill damage or flat lightning skill damage. Um, Life and Mana Steel is always beneficial as well. But really, the magic or lightning skill damage, attack speed, and skills are very beneficial for us. So those are kind of things that you want to look for in your weapon slot while you're going through the leveling process. There are two of them I really want to point out that should be kind of, if you can get them, they're going to be massive increases, and you're going to utilize them until you get a heroic. And the first one is going to be Revenant Lasher, and this is it's everything that we want. It has a chance when you attack to trigger Vengeance. It has plus skills. It has plus to Lightning Fury, which is what we're going to be using. Rolls attack speed on it, Mana Steel, the Lightning skill damage, and minus to enemy res with sockets. This thing is ideal for the kind of later leveling process. It will, like I said, it's hands down going to last you until you get a really good, what will be our end game item, and I'll show that later on in the video. The other one that you can look to is the Mjolnir, and this is a rune word craft. This really comes down to whether or not you find a goal early on enough. So it's a four socket weapon, whether it be a claw, sword, axe, mace, um, any of the one-handers. You don't want to make it as a two-hander, make it as a one-hander so you can use your shield. Um, it has a chance on striking to trigger a really high-level lightning fury. It has attack speed, it has attack rating, it has uh, excuse me, lightning skill damage increase, minus to enemy, lightning resist. Really, really, really strong item. Um, at this point with the modifications, so the Revenant Lasher has been improved compared to previous seasons. I would say that Revenant Lasher is actually better than Mjolnir. It didn't used to be. So that's probably your ideal until you start farming for heroics and pushing through the hell difficulties. So next we're going to cover some shields that, are just kind of look out for these. Um, When it comes to non-weapon pieces, generally we're getting split into, is this going to be a damage increase or is it going to be a defensive increase for us? There are a few of them that can kind of fit into both roles, but generally speaking, you're either going for pure defensive stats or pure offensive stats. So some of the ones that I just want to point out is like these are ones to keep your eye out for. Early on, a Thunderburn Aegis is very good. Up to 2 lightning skills with lightning skill damage and 5 all res. Really great. Really, really strong early shield for us. Um, Next up, we could hopefully find a Storm Gladiator's Wall. This thing's really good. Chance after block to trigger Lightning Fury with lightning skills, lightning skill damage, and a very high resistance roll. 35 to resistance is a pretty solid roll, as well as some sockets on it. So very nice shield if you can find one. And then this one, I actually want to give a shout out to this one. This has been modified. So the Pit Fiend's Thorn. And the reason that I'm mentioning this, so you look at it and you go, oh, okay, it's got movement speed, attack rating, lifesteal. That's pretty good. But there's no plus skills. There's no lightning skills. There's no lightning skill damage. Why am I bringing this up? Well, the extra damage to bleeding monsters. So the way that extra damage to monsters affected with X ailment actually adds as a multiplier on top of your damage. So if this rolled with an 18%, it would take your final total of damage and then stack an 18% additional modifier onto it. So if you were, say you were doing a base of 100 damage and you got all of your items and abilities on and you got up to 1,000, and then you added this 18%, it would add an extra 180 right on top. just flat right on top of it. It adds a significant amount of damage, and because it comes with the chance to open wound, which causes bleeding, this can be later on in the leveling process a significant damage increase, especially for bosses. So it's worth mentioning. Keep your eye out for items like that. Um, this one again, very particular reason for this one, but generally again, you're going to want to either focus on the defensive things like vitality, resistances, life percent, or some of the more offensive stats, all skills, lightning skill damage, etc. So in covering helms, there's a few of them I just want to cover really quick. Sky Crusader's helm gives us a good defensive option, good example of defenses that we want to go for. Vitality, armor, physical damage taken reduction, and all resistances plus half freeze duration, which is better than a lot of people think. They don't really think, a lot of people don't think about that while leveling, that things like stun and freeze can really kind of hinder you. So that's not a bad one to have. Um, the other one here, Warlord's Fury, is a very nice one. The increased movement speed, and attack rating are all really beneficial to us early on. Plus, lifesteal and mana after kill helps keep us going. So two different helms, both for very different reasons, one defensive, one offensive, but again, giving you examples of things to kind of look for on helms to help you, based off what you find, make the right choice when you find different pieces. So next up here we have different body armors that we're looking at. First one, really early, great piece if you happen to find it. Thunder Gladiator's armor. Um, the chance when struck for charge bolts, a little extra damage. The lightning skill damage and -2 enemy resistances is really strong. It's going to help boost your damage for that early leveling phase. Next up, the Grand Wizard's Robe. Plus to skills, physical damage reduction, and resistances with sockets. A very nice one for the mid game to help boost the damage and survivability for you. Um, I like to bring in Heaven's Might as another example. This is a really good defensive option with some plus to skills. So plus up to 4 skills, up to 15% to both physical and magical damage taken reduction, and plus up to 100 to vitality based on your level. With up to, I believe it rolls, no, it's just a flat 6 socket. So a very strong option. If you happen to find one, it can be a game changer in the later leveling phase. So for belts, there's a couple of them I just want to point out. Crystal Belt, while we're going through the leveling process, very straightforward on why this is good. +1 to all skills, attributes, all resistances. The faster recovery is nice. It's not super big for us, but it doesn't hurt us. And as you've seen while leveling, getting hit by stuff really can slow you down. So, very nice belt for us early on. Um, Tribal Belt is another really good option. This is more to the offensive side. Um, the enhanced damage does improve our physical damage, not the elemental, but early on that can give us a nice boost in damage. Attack speed is exactly what we want. Deadly Blow, again, it affects our physical damage, not the magic, but early on helps. Attack rating is good, and the all resistances is never a bad thing to get all resistances. Now, later on, towards the late leveling phase, Commander Sash is an amazing belt. And in fact, that will carry you through until you get your heroic belt, your Set's Lightning Sash. This thing is great. 1 to all skills, attack speed, life and mana steal, attributes on, strength and dexterity on it, physical damage reduction, all resistances. This thing it's a phenomenal belt. If you can get your hands on one, do so. I highly recommend it. So for gloves, a couple of little options here. An early one that if you can get your hands on is very good for the early leveling phase. Life Ward gauntlets, um, up to 10 to attributes and 15 all res is really strong at such a low level. Um, Rapid caster mitts are actually very strong for us, especially early on as damage option. The up to 15% attack speed with up to 10% magic skill damage is really strong. Can really help boost us through getting to level 40 to swapping to our Lightning Fury setup. Titan static guards are realistically the bigger damage option for us. Um, and honestly, in most cases, will probably carry you through until you hit 100 as a glove option. The 15 attack speed and 30 up to 30% lightning skill damage is just really, really, really strong for us. You could go for a more defensive option, but there's just not a lot of options in gloves. So I would generally recommend just going, you know what, I'm going to go for damage in the glove spot and get my defenses in other pieces of gear that are not as strong offensively. So for boots, a couple of recommended options here. Tribal boots, the movement speed on them is very solid early on. The attack rating, all resistances with some strength and dex and fast hit recovery. Solid option if you can find them. Hermes boots at the higher end are just really, really strong. 70% increased movement speed, 75% increased jumping power, which increases the distance that you jump, up to 20 all attributes and up to 25 resistances. These are really, really strong for us. And outside of some rune word options, are going to be your best up until we get into hell difficulty and start farming for heroics. So for amulets, they've really been modified and changed for Season 8. So we have some very interesting attributes that we're looking at now. Storm Pendant early on, plus up to 2 to lightning skills, and the flat lightning skill damage on it is really strong. The energy conversion into lightning skill damage is actually a nice little bump there. Granted, it's not going to be huge early on because we won't be attribute stacking at this point, um, but it's still a solid damage option with the plus skills and the flat lightning skill damage. So if you can find it, it's very nice. The Elder's Heart is insanely strong. This is actually one that I recommend early on, trying to star level to 5 and keeping any of them that you find. 5% of your vitality is converted to magic skill damage with up to 20 vitality added and a 5% vitality increase on the item with 20 all res. We're already putting half of our attribute points into vitality. So this thing is really strong for us. If you can, any of them that you find, like I said, I recommend getting these to 5-star as quickly as you can, um, especially with how easy it is to get the star level items while leveling. Yeah, you might corrupt a few of these, but they're stupid strong. Very, very good amulet. And then the other one that I want to mention for the same reason, Shining Pearl. It basically functions the same way, but it doesn't have the resistances, and it's a little heavier on the vitality and conversion. So it really depends on where your defenses are. The Shining Pearl is the overall better damage option. 2 skills, up to 10% vitality converted, up to 30 flat vitality on it, with up to 10% vitality increase. At the end of the leveling phase, I think we run like I think like 350 to 400 vitality, I forget, without that Shining Pearl. And so if it rolls really good for us, we can easily see like a 450 to maybe 500 vitality setup. And getting 10% of that, that's a 50% magic skill damage increase from your necklace. Um, Huge. And that's before the star levels. So uh, definitely the one to go for, I would say. Um, again, if you can find it. And same way with Elder Heart, the more of these that you find, star level them and try and get them capped out because they are going to be very strong for us. So for rings, I have a couple of them here that I wanted to show off. 2 of them for the more early game, 2 of them for the more of the late game. Um, Astrope's Signet of Blessing. The attack speed mixed with the flat lightning skill damage and percent lightning skill damage is really strong offensively. It's a great damage ring early on for us. Satanic Eye, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite in that it's a little bit more defensive. It's up to 15 all attributes and up to 30 to all res. This is huge for resistances for a ring slot. Um, Plus the attributes. Attributes are never a bad thing. So a very nice, like I said, more defensive ring in that regard. Now for later on, there's 2 of them I want to cover. Tectonic Frequency, which is more of a damage one. It's percent lightning skill damage and minus to enemy resistances, which is very nice. The other one is a little more well-rounded, and this is probably going to be more the one that you're going to want to look towards and focus towards. For the same reason that we were looking at in the amulets, vitality stacking. It's going to be really strong for us. I don't believe that we will actually get more benefit out of going flat vitality. I think we're still going to go 50-50 into instant vitality. That remains to be seen. But again, vitality conversion up to 12%. It gives us a flat 40 to vitality with flat life and life replenish. So really nice ring, can give us a decent chunk of health for survivability and damage as well. So I wanted to give my recommendation on a couple of relics that you want to try and look towards. Try and find these. These are really solid options. Um, we have everything: the half-eaten mochi, vitality conversion into magic skill damage. Obviously, we've seen a fair number of items with that already. Really good option considering that we stack a fair amount of vitality. The orb of lightning minus to enemy lightning res, really strong, and that frees up a lot of room in some of our gear later on as well when we're trying to balance, because we want to make sure we hit that minus 100% to enemy lightning res. Um, Lightning Globe actually gives +1 to lightning skills per level, so that one relic gives us +10 to all lightning skills. Super strong. Um, we really want to try and get that one. Um, the Death Scythe and Shiv both give us a attack speed, movement speed buff. And they both cap out at level 30, which gives us, I believe it was 49. I'm trying to remember exactly what the attack speed, movement speed was. I think it's 49 at level 30 for each of those relics. So we're getting 100% increased attack speed and movement speed between those two relics. So really solid options there. There's going to be a lot of play, and I plan on doing later videos for more endgame gearing, um, and I want to get hands on and really test which ones are our best option and we're going to get the most out of. So, and it may come down to which one, they're both really close, but we get more quality of life out of the movement speed. That remains to be seen, but these are 5 really solid options you can look at. Whichever ones you happen to find, try and get these, and these are going to be solid options that will give us significant boosts in our damage from the relic slots. Now, I wanted to cover potions just really quickly to give kind of an idea on what kind of stats we're looking for in our potion slots that are going to be most beneficial to our particular build. Um, so for our healing potion, what we want increased amount of regeneration, and we want a percentage of it to happen instantly. Ideally, we want to shoot for, I would say, probably about 60 to 70% instant. Because generally we're only using a potion when we get hit. It's a reactive option. Um, so we want to make sure when we get hit by something big that a significant chunk of health comes back with a little bit trickling. Um, the ideals, though, you definitely want to make sure that you have chance to replenish stack after monster kill and stack regeneration. This is going to ensure that regardless of what we're doing, we're getting stacks back so we don't run out of potion charges. Um, Even in boss fights, the regeneration is super important during boss fights. For the mana potion, we kind of want to go actually the opposite way with it. We don't want instant regeneration. Okay, we want to get mana, increased mana regeneration, but less so the instantaneous. We do want the replenish after kill and the stack regeneration for the same reasons, but basically, as the mana pool starts to go down, we want to pop a potion and we don't want to pump it back up and then we cap out and it's wasting the potion. We want it to be a slow, steady increase to where we're getting the most out of each charge of the potion. So that's kind of the ideals when we're looking for our potions in the early leveling phase. All right, and lastly, we are going to be covering the charms. I just want to briefly cover this really quick. Some of the ones to look out for, these are all non-target farmable, but Raider's Torch is a good one for the attack speed and the attack damage for when we're hitting in the melee. Um, the Beetle of Life, Vitality, which is good for some of the other items that we are going for. But, Replenish Life, Flat Life, Life After Kill, Life Percent, really solid. Wind Token, -2 enemy lightning res, really strong for us. Again, we want to shoot for that -100% as quickly as possible. That's a significant damage increase for us. Um, Spine Trophy is actually a viable option because a lot of our main damaging abilities are both lightning and physical, so that +3 to physical skills will still affect Lightning Fury. Same thing with Vengeance, it's classified as lightning and physical. So we actually get a little bit of bonus out of it. It's not great, but if you happen to find one, it's not a bad find. um, Witch's Claw, really, really important for us. This is one that I actually recommend that you try to get. If you're playing on trade, buy one. The +1 to skills is good, but it's the mana steal. The mana sustain for us is a big issue, so getting a Witch's Claw really important. Up to 6% mana steal and 20 mana after each kill really helps with our sustain. Adventurer's Quiver, attack range and attack speed, really big for us for the attack speed. Hardened Steel Defender, armor, and percentage life up to 20%. So really good items there, just kind of charms. Again, we're looking for a lot of the same, some defenses, life, vitality, attack speed, skills, life and mana, steel, etc. So even if you're finding base charms like non, satanics or unique ones, anything with those stats is really kind of desired. Also, keep your eye out for like flat lightning skill damage. Early on, very strong, can add a lot of damage for us. Percent magic skill, percent lightning skill damage, etc. So I wanted to cover just really quickly a few items. So one item per slot of heroics that you can start target farming when you reach the hell difficulty. Just kind of help get you in a progressive movement forward, so you're not just like, oh, I hit 100 and now I don't know what to do. So first off, we're going to start with our weapon, what's referred to as Murray, the Sakapui Murray, and this is our best in slot weapon as it stands right now. This weapon is everything that we want and more. It has high attack speed on it already, 1.85 attack speed on it. It has up to 85% increased attack speed, up to 5 to lightning skills. It has a chance on striking for Stormcaller, which does additional lightning damage, percent increased attack rating, flat lightning skill damage, percent lightning skill damage, minus to enemy res, and sockets. Um, this weapon is staggeringly insane. It's everything that we want and more. And with the improvements, because of star levels, this thing is just going to skyrocket for us in terms of damage. I've been, I've been making guides for the last 3 seasons, playing for the last 4. I still can't find anything that beats it. It is just a phenomenal weapon. It's target farmable. It's just an amazing weapon, and I really can't recommend anything else than this weapon. For our shield, I'm going to recommend Defender's Justice. Now, in the shield slot, generally speaking, we want defensive. It's a shield is really huge for us, especially when it comes to all res, and Defender's Justice really gives us kind of everything that we need. It's a solid chunk of defense and block chance on it, up to 4 skills. It gives us both a bump to vitality and all attributes, with a little bit of damage taken reduction. Huge faster hit recovery, 75%, which is really big. It gives us a chunk of mana and life, and up to 75 all res with 5 sockets. It's a really solid shield, great stats on it, a lot of sockets, very nice piece. Again, all of these heroics are going to be target farmable, as you can see under the name there at the top. Like this one is Act 3, Zones 1 through 5. So really nice shield that you can go for. Again, very much recommended. For the helm, I'm going to recommend Colossal Avenger. Um, this gives us, so the enhanced damage, again, only affects the physical side, but it's a boost in damage. Early on, very nice. The up to 5 to all skills is really strong. Attack rating is never a bad thing. Every miss is a loss in damage. A huge chunk of lifesteal, which is very good for us. The strength helps with Lightning Fury a little bit, so not a bad thing to pick up. The minus physical damage taken is always good. It's always good to take less damage, but a huge chunk, non-varying, non-rolled, 50 to all resistances. Between your shield and helm, that right there puts you into the positives in Hell 1 automatically. Like you barely need any other resistances from other pieces of gear. So for the helm, that's the one that I'm going to recommend. For the armor, I'm going to recommend Thunder Guardian's Plate. Um, this thing is kind of the same way that Murray is just a no brainer, obvious pick. Thunder Guardian's Plate is the same way. This thing is phenomenal. The chance when striking to cast Symphony of Thunder. So what Symphony of Thunder does is it gives you a passive lightning damage buff. And that mixed with the percent lightning skill damage on it, you can actually get like 100% lightning skill damage off of this chess piece. And so it really, I mean, that with up to 8 all lightning skills, 30 attributes, minus the enemy res, all resistances with sockets, it's a beast of a chess piece, and the only things that's going to beat it is Inferno drop off of bosses. Like, it's just a phenomenal piece of gear. For your belt, I'm going to recommend sets. Sets is another one is pretty obvious to it. Um, chance when attacking for static shock that does lightning damage, up to 6 lightning skills, increases the stasis damage, which is one of the debuffs that we trigger with our Holy Shock Aura, 30 Vite, up to 35% lightning skill damage. So this thing is pretty solid. Plus the replenished mana is actually really nice for us because it helps kind of curb our mana issues. So really nice belt, very much recommended. For gloves, we're going to go with Tectonic Frequency. Now, Tectonic Frequency is, again, another one of those very straightforward. The Thunder Goddess's Chosen is actually a passive buff that it puts on you. So this adds percentage lightning skill damage. And it's pretty beefy. Between that and the lightning skill damage that's on it, you can almost get 100% lightning skill damage on your gloves between the Thunder Goddess's Chosen and the roll on it. Um, Plus the stasis damage, all skills, lightning skills, and the minus enemy res. They can't be beat for this build. Phenomenal gloves, and another one of those that we really aren't going to be looking to replace it until we start killing Inferno bosses. So for boots, I'm actually going to recommend a pair of boots called Pearlescent Dream. Um, these actually are just kind of a very solid rolled piece. We get really good movement speed up to 85%, increased jumping power, which is beneficial to us, magic skill damage, which is always good. The faster hit recovery is nice, up to 40 all res, and the Holy Aura. So this passively puts Holy Aura on us, which increases both magic and physical damage. So we get a nice boost not only to our defenses, but offenses as well. These are a really solid pair of boots that are target farmable. So I'm going to recommend those for us. Now, moving on to our amulets, there's a few here I want to recommend. Philosopher's Stone. This is farmable through the Chaos Tower, so it's kind of target farmable, but it's kind of not. But I couldn't not mention these. Um, Up to 5 all skills, a significant increase in energy, which helps us with our mana. Mana, not only mana pool, but mana regeneration. 15 to all attributes and 30 all res. It's a really solid neck piece that can really improve our quality of life. Uh, where's another one? Oh, that was the only. That's right. That was the only one that I picked for amulets. For rings, there's a few of them I want to cover though. Uh, Signet of Shadow. So this one is off of the Shaded Death. Now this is Uber, one of the Uber bosses. So I have to mention it, but it's not as target farmable. Um, but this ring, because of the three stats that you see in red are random rolled. So they can roll basically any stat in the game. So the ring itself comes with 4 to lightning skills. Excuse me. And actually, I believe this ring, it doesn't guaranteed roll lightning. It can roll any element, but when it rolls lightning, it's going to guaranteed roll lightning skills, the lightning skill damage, both the flat and the percentage, and the all damage taken reduced by 8%. The thing is with the three varied stats that it can roll. You could roll plus to skills. You could roll lightning skills. You could roll all res, lightning damage, percent magic skill damage. I mean, they could basically roll anything. This ring has the potential to be our best in slot for the entire season. So it's worth mentioning. Whether or not whether or not you get a good one, that's up in the air, but worth mentioning. One that is more target farmable, a little easier, out of the boss dungeons, so the act bosses, is Quickening Zephyr. So this actually can roll for any class, and that's one of the negatives to it. So you see the one here has Nomad skills, but it can roll for Pally, so up to 3 to Paladin skills, movement speed, attack speed, with some dex. A nice ring gives us a pretty good chunk of attack speed, and that's really the benefit to this. Um, the last one I want to recommend is the Soul Forged ring. Now this is the quest ring, okay, that you do once you get into the hell difficulties, and I very much recommend this ring. It is a solid, well-built ring. 2 to all skills, attack speed, attributes, life and mana percent, all resistances with a socket. Super strong. Great ring. Can easily last you into Inferno. Um, and if you're just not having much luck, do the quest line to get the Soul Forged ring. It's a very nice ring. I very much recommend it. So I do want to cover just a couple of target farmable charms here. Um, First off, Torsten's Anvil. This is farmable in the ruby chests in the ruby gardens, which you use the ruby keys in Act 5 to access those. Plus 1 to all skills, up to 10 to attributes and resistances, extra gold from monsters. The shop is open, actually summons a vendor with a prospector as well. So that can be very handy out in the field if you need it. But this is also a single slot charm. So it's not like a 2x2 square. No, it is a single square. 1 to skill, 10 to attributes, and 10 to resistances in a single square is one of the best actual charm configurations that you can have. It's very, very nice charm. Um, Soul Collector. So this actually has a chance to drop out of mobs from the Chaos Pillars and the Mimic Chests that spawn. This thing is insane. The Soul Burst actually gives us attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed. Plus, it can roll up to 6 all skills. The 6% movement speed is kind of weird. I feel like they should have put this at 66% movement speed. But whatever, that's how they did it. And 66 to attributes and up to 666 life. This charm is huge. It is strong. I very much recommend trying to, make sure you're doing Chaos Pillars and killing mimics, checking chests for mimics, because this is a very strong charm. Fulgurite. So this is also another one out of the ruby chests. This one is a 2-slot charm, but up to 3 to skills, up to 25 attributes, up to 50% magic skill damage, and up to 25 all res. The variables on this is really high, but the possibilities for this to roll good, if it rolls good, it rolls insanely good. So definitely want to keep your eye out for. Utilize your ruby keys. Make sure you're going for some of these really nice charms. And the last charm I want to cover is the Loaded Dice. Now, this only drops in the Unstable Rift, so those purple portals that you'll see. And rolled correctly with the right ability, these are either really strong for you or worth a lot to other players. If I get one of these that's 2 to all skills and 12 to Lightning Fury, that is plus 14 to my Lightning Fury. That's huge. That's a significant chunk of damage. The other thing it could roll is other abilities from other classes that will affect you, because it doesn't say that this ability that's on it is specific to that class. So if I get a passive that is like Symphony of Thunder, I get plus 12 to Symphony of Thunder automatically. That gives me that passive magic damage buff from that item. So loaded dice can roll really well. The only problem is that the skill that it rolls, it can roll any skill off of any class in the game. So it's a big gamble, but when it hits right, it is huge for our build. So that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys found it informative and it helps get you guys into Hell difficulty and out there just blasting. Please stay tuned for future videos that I'm going to make. I plan on doing a more endgame, a gearing guide, an endgame guide. I also want to do a couple of videos on some of the new content, the bosses, stuff like that. So please just make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed the video, if it was helpful, informative. There's more coming here soon. Thank you guys again for watching. Please leave a comment as well. I love getting comments from people, if it was helpful, if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can also join the official Hero Siege Discord. There's a paladin discussion section, which I'm in pretty much daily in there. So if you have questions, you can actually find me there as well. Um, but yeah, thank you guys again for watching. Have a good one. Good luck out there. And as always, game on.